The film begins with Nick, a young man who suffers from muscular dystrophy. He's on a road trip with his girlfriend Haley and their best friend Jonah. They're driving to California to drop Haley off as she's moving there to continue her studies. All three were students at MIT before this. A montage follows, showing them enjoying their journey. They eat at diners, visit an aquarium, and at one point, Nick is seen jogging near a river where the path has been swept away. That night, they stay in a hotel room. While Jonah and Haley sleep, Nick lies awake. Out of the blue, Nick receives a message from Nomad, an anonymous hacker who has been tormenting him and Jonah for a while. This is the same guy who once hacked MIT's system, posing as them, and nearly got them kicked out. When Nick tries to threaten him back, Nomad responds with a live video feed of their exact position in the room. He's spying on them through Haley's laptop webcam. Shaken but determined, Nick manages to trace the hacker's signal to somewhere in Nevada. The next morning, they continue their drive. Jonah suddenly receives a photo of their car taken just minutes earlier. Tension builds as they realize Nomad is watching them. Jonah begins actively tracking the hacker's exact location using his laptop. They pull into a gas station. While Nick goes to get coffee, Haley asks Jonah if Nick has mentioned anything about her moving. She knows he's upset but hasn't said much. Just then, Nick stumbles and spills the coffee on himself, prompting both friends to rush over. Embarrassed, Nick pulls away and walks back to get more coffee. Meanwhile, Jonah and Nick confirm that Nomad's signal is just a few miles ahead. They decide to confront him directly. As they prepare to leave, they realize Haley is missing. Nick finds her sitting on a nearby cliff. The two have a heartfelt conversation about their relationship. Nick wants to break up so she won't be held back by his condition, but Haley insists they can make it work. When he refuses to listen, she removes the necklace he gave her and tosses it. That night, they finally reach the location traced to Nomad. It's an old, abandoned house. Despite their doubts, the boys decide to go in and investigate. Using flashlights, they explore the dark interior, but find nothing. Suddenly, they hear Haley scream outside. They rush back to the car, but she's gone, and the radio is glitching. Panic sets in as they call out her name. Then Nick's flashlight catches a terrifying sight. Haley being pulled up into the sky by some strange force. Frightened, they run toward Haley, shouting her name. Suddenly, the screen cuts to black. When Nick regains consciousness, he finds himself in what looks like a hospital, wearing nothing but a gown and feeling disoriented. A man in a white spacesuit-like outfit wheels him into a room. Inside the room, another similarly dressed man introduces himself as Dr. Wallace Damon. He begins recording their conversation and questions Nick about the first time he encountered the signal. Nick has no idea what Damon is referring to and asks about his friends and why he's being held there. Damon responds that Nick and his friends have come into contact with an EBE, an extraterrestrial biological entity. Still confused and alarmed, Nick demands to see his friends or call his family. Before he can continue, Damon notices Nick's nose bleeding heavily and abruptly ends the conversation. Nick is then wheeled back to his original room. The next day, as workers escort Nick back to the room, he notices them cleaning up an odd liquid from the floor. While being moved, he spots Haley lying unconscious in another room. He begs the workers to let him see her, but they refuse. Once again, Nick is brought to Damon, who continues with more bizarre questions, asking if Nick has 10 toes and whether he's really from Earth. Damon then brings up the strange messages from Nomad, calling them the signals. He shows Nick footage from the night they confronted Nomad, zooming in to reveal a mysterious alien figure in the background. Nick is stunned. Damon then drops the bombshell. Nomad wasn't just a hacker. Later, back in his room, Nick hears a whispering voice. He traces the sound to a vent and discovers Jonah hiding inside. Jonah manages to sneak in to talk and confirms Nick's fears. Something is seriously off about the facility. He suspects they're being experimented on. Their conversation is cut short before they can say more. The next day, Nick is back in the room with Damon, who's now making him take a shape and color recognition test. Frustrated and angry, Nick breezes through it and demands to see Haley. This time, Damon agrees and leads him to her room. Haley lies motionless, and Damon claims she's in a coma. He assures Nick that once she wakes up, he can speak to her. Determined to get out, Nick starts plotting an escape. He smashes the cracker he's given for food and spreads the crumbs over the door's keypad, hoping to figure out the code from the pressure marks. Later, back in his room, he sets his plan in motion. He goes to get Haley, tying her bed to his wheelchair to pull her along. Meanwhile, Damon enters Nick's room and sees drawings of the facility covering the bed, evidence of Nick's escape plan. Security is alerted. Despite that, Nick manages to drag both himself and Haley to the exit door. But there's one problem. He can't quite reach the keypad. Nick does everything he can to reach the keypad, even using a hospital tube to press the keys. Just before he can complete the sequence, Damon catches him. Nick later wakes up beside Haley, who remains unconscious. While struggling against the guards, he falls off the bed and starts bleeding. Seeing this, the guards leave the room. Nick is then horrified to discover that his legs have been amputated and replaced with alien prosthetic limbs. Watching from behind a one-way mirror, Damon calmly tells Nick that the situation is complicated. He sends 2 workers to retrieve him, but Nick's new legs give him superhuman strength. He kicks the door off its hinges and manages to escape with Haley. For the first time since arriving, Nick is able to walk. More than that, he can run. As they move through the hallway, Damon follows and confronts them at the elevator. He tries to reason with Nick, saying he can only offer help within the facility and that stepping outside means facing everything alone. Nick doesn't listen and bolts with Haley. They pass through a dark hallway and a tunnel-like sewer system until they finally reach sunlight. When they emerge, they find themselves in the middle of a vast desert. At last, Haley wakes up and the 2 begin walking. Eventually, a car approaches, and they flag it down for help. The driver is an old, eccentric woman named Mirabelle, who mumbles to invisible, tiny angels she believes were sent by God. Despite her odd behavior, she agrees to drop them off at a gas station. At the gas station, Nick tries to call for help, but the phone doesn't work. While inside, he sees his face on a news broadcast. Suddenly, he spots a red truck driving off with Haley inside. He races after it using his cybernetic legs and manages to catch up. Haley, who found a gun in the truck, points it at the man who abducted her. They force him out and take control of the vehicle. Meanwhile, Damon sets up a roadblock in his search for them and eventually finds Mirabelle. He gently persuades her to come back with him, and she agrees. Damon is now carrying a red briefcase, and once back at the facility, he questions Mirabelle. Disturbingly, her nose begins to bleed, just like Nick's did before. Damon then pulls a gun from the red briefcase. The screen fades to black, strongly suggesting that he shoots her. Meanwhile, Nick and Haley find themselves at a dead end, unsure where to go. They turn around and stumble upon an abandoned visitor center where they decide to rest. Inside the center, Nick attempts to use a phone, but again it's non-functional. Haley discovers a map of the area, but Nick can't figure out their exact location. As this happens, Damon and his team track down the man who kidnapped Haley. He has clearly lost his mind, claiming his family is with him even though he's alone. He tries to shoot Damon, but the gun malfunctions. Damon shoots him instead, covers his body with a blanket, and leaves. Back at the visitor center, Nick and Haley hear a strange noise from below. Cautiously, they go to investigate and discover it's a facility worker. But, to their relief, it turns out to be Jonah. The trio finally reunites, and Jonah shares his own story. He too managed to escape from the facility. That night, Nick notices an unusual mark on Haley's back and suspects she's been experimented on as well. Later, Jonah confides that they might be inside a government-controlled zone, possibly Area 51. It's then revealed that his arms have been replaced with prosthetic limbs, similar to Nick's legs. The next day, the group sets off in the truck to find a way out, but they run into a military roadblock. Jonah immediately attacks one of the guards and opens fire, while Nick and Haley take cover. The shootout leaves Jonah badly injured. Despite Nick's reluctance, Jonah insists they escape while he holds off the guards. He uses his mechanical arms to crush a metal cylinder blocking their path, clearing the way for Nick and Haley to flee. As the guards regroup, Jonah slams the ground with such force that a shockwave ripples through the area, staggering them. Sadly, the effort costs him his life. It's all for nothing, though, as Nick and Haley are soon captured by Damon's team. Their truck hits a spike trap and flips over. Though they survive, both are injured. Before the guards take her away, Haley gives Nick the necklace he believed she had discarded. As Haley is flown away in a helicopter, Nick notices Damon's name tag and realizes Damon spelled backward is Nomad. Confronted, Damon admits the truth. He's been Nomad all along. He was the one who lured Nick to the facility under false pretenses to use him as a test subject for alien hybrid experiments. Damon explains that Nick's new legs are a successful fusion of human and alien technology. Enraged at the realization that he was nothing more than a lab rat, Nick's legs begin to emit a red glow. Fueled by anger, he sprints at a speed beyond human capacity and smashes into an unseen barrier. The impact breaks through, revealing a much larger structure beyond the fake desert. Damon approaches the breach and removes his outer disguise, exposing a robotic head underneath. It becomes clear that he and the other people in the facility aren't human at all. They're robotic aliens. Mirabelle and Haley's kidnapper had also been abducted humans. However, their minds couldn't sync with the alien enhancements, which eventually drove them insane. Since they were considered failures, Damon had no choice but to eliminate them. Nick turns around and realizes the horrifying truth. He's not on Earth. The entire desert landscape was just a simulated environment. As the camera pulls back, we see a massive, high-tech alien world with towering skyscrapers and a massive parabolic sun shield overhead. Nick stands alone. His friend is dead, his girlfriend has been taken, and he is the last remaining human in this foreign world.